I don't know what I'm going to be called today.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Linux cast. Sorry about being a little bit late. I opened up OBS and the camera wasn't even registering as a device, so I have no clue what was going on there. I unplugged it, plugged it back in, and it worked fine. So, yeah, that is the way my Linux has gone over the last 24 hours. I ruined my Debian install last night by uninstalling Plasma. Don't ever uninstall Plasma. It just takes everything with it. And the thing is, I knew that it would do that. Like I knew it would take. It took Network Manager. It took everything with it. So
Don't try to uninstall Plasma. You uninstall Plasma, it's like taking the base of a building. How is a building going to stand, my friend?
yeah. Anyways, so I'm not on Debian anymore. I went back to OpenSUSE Tumbleweed. Actually, kind of happy to be here. But anyways, we'll see. If we could get some yays or nays on the audio, I'd be appreciative. This is me saying some words. Steve, say some words.
This is me saying some words.
You guys are gonna have to forgive Steve. He's on the accent kick again. I get more
accent. I'm Lebanese. This is the English Lebanese accent. You can ask any Lebanese. By the way, oh, shut up, email. Do you remember Kudu from your server?
No.
Okay, there's a guy called Kudu on your server. We were together yesterday in the city center. We met in real life.
And he wasn't a serial killer?
Ah, he's a good guy. He's a good kid.
All right.
We enjoyed ourselves. We had a sandwich called Malika Tawo. Malika Tawo is shish tawo in a sandwich.
No offense to everybody who is in my Discord server, but I don't think I'd meet very many of you. I'm pretty sure there's definitely some serial killers in there.
Got lucky. He was a nice kid. We took a picture together, and I showed him my old job because that's where I used to work in city center in a shop called iStyle. I took him there, and I tried to get plugged. How do you say in American? I tried to weasel my way back into working there, just asking if they were asking for people, get a job again, work like normal human beings, not sitting behind a computer.
Yeah, I sit behind a computer for my job. All right, anyways, welcome to the Linux Cast, guys. Thanks for joining us. It's just me and Steve-O today. Tyler is on vacation. Josh is getting fiber internet. The lucky bastard.
Finally. Maybe Arch will work for him this time.
I doubt it. I doubt it. Arch hates him. Anyway, so we got some news we're going to talk about today, but first we need to get everything set up and ready so we can actually record. Because I'm way behind.
I was recording like 15 minutes.
You better not have.
If not, you'll have extra audio. You can just delete the first part. It's seconds.
It's actually not as easy as you make it sound. When you're trying to line things up, you want them to be about the same length as possible. Otherwise, we end up with last week's problem, where I couldn't get them lined up at all. I ended up using the OBS thing, and you were like super quiet. Hopefully, that's not the case today.
But that's anyway. Not the case this time around. Yeah.
So
Bluemail got an update.
Last week, we couldn't blame me not having the volume up in my headphones. That was so stupid. All right. Anyways, let me do a test recording here and make sure. Yep.
Bluemail got an update. Who cares? I'll build it later.
Isn't Bluemail proprietary nonsense?
I think so. But some people use it. I have it on my Pro.
All right, let's go ahead and get started here. I'm going to hit record in Audacity. I'm going to hit record in OBS, and you can do the claps when you feel like it.
All right, sir. Whenever you're ready. The count of 3. 1.
Wasn't even close.
Wasn't even close.
No, not even close. Even with just 2 people, we still can't do the claps worth a damn. It's okay. Yeah.
Why would you even bother?
We promise we're going to find a better way of doing that. Josh and I have been discussing it. There's other opportunities for us to record things that are not Discord that make it easier for us to synchronize things. The problem is that they're not free. They're pricey. So we'll see how that goes.
Did you discuss Jitsi?
We've talked about Jitsi, but that's basically just going to give us the same problem as Discord. And I've used Jitsi before. That's very reliant on the server, right? If the server is bad, you get bad quality.
And I think it uses the Zoom backend. If I'm mistaken.
I think like Discord, Jitsi, Zoom all use OpenRTC or something like that.
Yeah.
So they all use the same thing. Really, what we're looking for is something that will allow us to easily record the videos separately, so that it's easier to kind of line things up.
Windows, I have a lot of options. On Linux, I don't know any options.
Well, one of the options to use is Skype. Skype will let you do it. But
Sorry to disappoint you. Skype does not connect here.
In like where you're at, or you just can't use Skype? Okay. Well, it doesn't really matter. We weren't going to use Skype anyways. I use Skype for my other.
The only thing we can do with Skype is make VoIP landline calls. I use Skype specifically because I put the credit in there, because whenever I need to call my bank in Ireland, instead of using landline calls, I use just Skype. It costs me nothing. Next to nothing. Like $0.02 a minute. Yeah. Thank God for Skype for situations like that.
Let me open up the notes here because I had to close them. All right.
Banks still use landlines.
Yeah. No, he wasn't saying that it was using the Zoom backend, as in it was actually using Zoom. What he meant was it was using OpenRTC. I think is what he meant.
Because Zoom uses WebRTC.
WebRTC. That's what I was looking for. Yep. Whatever it is. We don't know what
it's WebRTC because Discord uses it, and on this ISP, Discord does not connect for me. It gets stuck on connecting to WebRTC, but WebCord works. I don't know what magic WebCord does, but at least it works.
Matt is not using GNOME. I don't have GNOME.
One day you will be using GNOME with a capital G.
No, I won't be doing that. All right, let's go ahead.
$10,000 you will.
Well, not in crypto. That's monopoly money. All right. Yeah. I'm too old for that nonsense. Is where it's at. Where that's at. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Obviously, we don't have to worry about an order this week because it's just you and me. Hey, everybody! Welcome to the Linux Cast. I'm your host, Matt. Are you serious? Are you serious right now? There's no audio coming out of Steve's microphone. Nope, still no audio. It was working until we just started. What is going on here? Did I mute you accidentally? No.
Did you mute me accidentally?
Oh, there you go.
Did you mute me accidentally? Oh, Matt, today what have you been doing?
No,
on your
that's
computer?
definitely was not my fault. That was definitely all on your end.
I just unplugged it.
So wait a minute, you did it on purpose?
No, I have, because the cable is so long, my foot touched it and unplugged
it. All right. I was gonna say, I just thought you were trolling me.
and okay, and today I am Steve.
Yeah, let's actually just start.
I remembered my name.
Let's just start over again. That was hilarious. Like the minute we start, it happens. This is going to be a great episode, guys. This is going to be fantastic. Yeah. Accidentally, that's exactly what it was. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Linux Cast. I'm your host, Matt.
I am Steve.
Hey,
I remembered my name today.
And he has actual audio, so that was good. This is going to be a train wreck, guys. I'm just going to warn you right off the bat. I have.
Come on, you have to admit a little bit of comedy in the podcast adds a lot of value.
I tell you, everybody who's watching this after the show's over, go come join us on a Saturday. Watch us live. The pre-show's fantastic. We always do have a good time in the pre-show. Technical difficulties all over the place this week, so we're just gonna cross our
And
fingers.
comedy galore, comedy galore, comedy galore. And since we're two old geezers today, we're not gonna understand anything from what we're gonna be talking about. I'm not gonna understand anything I'm gonna be talking about because one of my topics is related to something I've never used. So let's wing it, baby.
It's going to be fun. All right, so this is the Linux Cast. We talk about Linuxy things, as which we usually do, and we absolutely have no tangents whatsoever. I'm sure that we'll have fewer tangents this week than we normally have. Wait a minute. Those statements didn't really go together. I said we don't have any, and then we normally have some. I don't know. We never have any tangents. Anyways, so we talk about the news on this podcast, but before we do, we're going to talk about what we've done this week in open source. So, Steve, what you been up to this week, boy?
Okay, I've been up to a lot this week. A lot of discussion in the Linux realm. But I'm happy to announce, after a lot of discussion, now the Zero Linux team has a structure to it. We have Ripley, who's going to be responsible for all the social media related stuff. So posting on YouTube, community, posting on Twitter, because I decided not to delete my Twitter, but to transform it into Zero Linux OP, because somebody already took Zero Linux and they're using it to call everybody homo. Yeah, he's going to be responsible for that. We got Teddy, who's responsible for the UI UX side of things. We have Gamer King, who's gonna work on a new spin, Zero Linux, and who else do we have? Oh, we're in discussion. It's not finalized yet. We might have a web developer joining the team who's gonna revamp the Zero Linux website and bring it up to modernization. And we're gonna have a blog side of things where we're gonna announce things instead of only Discord. So I've been managing half the week, and the other half of the week, we've been working on ideas on how to grow Zero Linux, because yeah, it has reached a point where it has become boring. No changes are taking place, no major changes, just for the hood fixes and tweaks. We need we're looking at various ideas to grow the project and financially make it viable. So it's no longer a how did I call it, a side project or a passion project. Now it's trying to become a business kind of thing. And I've been working on more scripts because guess what? The grub issue, a new grub issue has come through the cracks. Now I have the ugly task of showing people how they can arch chroot, reinstall grub, get their system to boot again. Thank you, grub developers. And other than that, troubleshooting. Most of the time, troubleshooting and reading. What I've been up to.
I wonder why Arch always has so many problems with grub. It's like it's always having
It's
problems.
not Arch. It's not this time around. It's not Arch.
But it's only happening on Arch, right?
The thing is, I went to the Grub official website and I went to their issue tracker, and the issue that everybody's running into has been reported over there, and it's a confirmed bug in Grub. But the only way they can fix it the fastest is for reports to keep piling on by people, but no one is reporting it. Is bothering to report it. So far, it's only one user and me. We're only two people who have reported the bug. Everybody else just waiting it out, waiting for the fix to somewhat magically appear. So until then, I'm troubleshooting it, helping users learn how to arch chroot. But yeah, it's happening on Arch because Arch used the latest version that comes upstream.
Yeah.
This is the nature of Arch. This is how it works. So it's not Arch's problem if that's its nature from the get go. So yeah, they pull from upstream directly to the user. They don't do anything on their end. So yeah, and that issue has existed for two versions back to back, R566 and R591 so far. Haven't fixed it.
Oh, that's crazy. All right, so for me, I've done many things. So I guess the thing that I should talk about first is that I was on Debian there for a long time, and it was a really good distribution. And then I had like 3,000 deb packages installed. So
what the hell?
I know. So I was like, what's the best way to kind of prune some of the stuff? Because I don't I mean, it's weird that I had that many. And I figured...
Install Flatpaks! Install Flatpaks!
I had some flat packs too. But anyways, the thing that I decided to do, and this was stupid and completely noob of me, is I uninstalled Plasma. And if you've ever tried to uninstall Plasma before, it takes literally everything with it. So I could have tried to fix it, but I just didn't have the time to do it last night. So I hopped. Well, I didn't hop, but what I tried to do was just reinstall Debian. I figured, well, I'll just reinstall Debian. It'll be fine.
Oh, that's when you had the USB error?
Yeah, I was getting some weird USB errors throughout the entire installation, and it did install, but then it wouldn't actually, and it booted, and it got to the TTY, but it kept showing errors over and over again, even over the TTY. It was really weird. I'm pretty sure it's my external hard drive is in the process of exploding or something. I don't know what the hell's going on. Every once in a while, it just completely falls off the rails, and it's not connected at all. So I think that was the issue that I'm having there. And it's also possible that I'm having some USB problems, given the fact that I also just had some problems with my camera. So,
you see this external hard drive? It can only be USB 3. This micro B, whatever it's called, it can only be that because it's soldered to the motherboard. I cannot switch it and use it as an internal SATA drive. And this USB 3 drive is a 2 terabyte drive, element drive, which is the slowest WD external drive that exists. It's a thick boy, but I want to use it as internal. I cannot use it as internal, so I use it as external. I dropped this thing like 1,000 times, and it survived. And it's been with me for, I don't know, 7 years. It's slow. If I want to copy a file to it, USB 3, it takes approximately 6 to 8 hours.
Yeah, I don't know what's actually going on with my USB stuff. It's something I'm kind of working on. But anyways, I went back to OpenSUSE Tumbleweed, and because I'm pretty sure I understand what the problem was happening when I had to hop away from it before, so that's kind of where I'm at right now. I do still have Debian installed on my other hard drive, and I'll still use that so I can finish the review.
You like to live in pain. You like to see your guts out of your body. Why you use OpenSUSE? It's painful.
It's not painful. It's fine.
Updating is slow. Zipper? Why they called it zipper? They were thinking about their jean zipper, their thingy hanging dingy dongy outside. Why?
All right, Steve, I'm banning you. Stop that bullshit.
They called it zipper. Your jean zipper? What?
I don't know why they called it zipper. Why do they call it apt or Pac-Man or
Pac-Man is fun.
DNF.
This is fun. Zipper? Are they talking about the tail between the legs? What is?
Why do I even do this?
I get old jokes in my head.
All right. Anyways, I went back to OpenSUSE. I'm pretty happy with it as a setup right now. Not getting any of the errors I was getting before, which is good. Anyways, I did that. Also, I got a Stream Deck, not a Steam Deck. I already had that, but I have a Stream Deck now. And
thank you for that too.
Yeah,
I wanted to thank you for that.
There's a application called Deckmaster that just makes it so good. It's all. I wish there was kind of a GUI for it, but you use it through a configuration file instead, and you can just basically create as many decks as you want, and it's just so good. So if you have a Stream Deck, I highly recommend Deckmaster. It's really fantastic.
Yeah, it's on the Zero Linux repositories now because of you. Thanks.
Yeah, and I'm really appreciative to those developers because they do package it in both deb and RPM formats, so it's really easy to install if you're using a regular.
I thank the maintainer on the AUR for making it available for us to build and host.
Yeah, it was on AUR too. Yep. So Yeah, I've been playing around with that, and I think the other thing that I've been doing is finally transitioning away from Firefox on all of my machines. I'm now using Vivaldi on every machine that I have.
Who made one old geezer happy?
Um,
1 year to 1 year.
there are still
You made me happy.
there are still things that are making me angry about it. So like if
There will
you
always be a few things.
zoom in on a page, it doesn't remember that
Doesn't remember it.
It doesn't remember that zoom level on that whole URL, which is just I don't so that's a Chrome, that's in Chrome.
No,
Okay.
here's the thing. You're talking about that issue, and I'm talking about the opposite issue. It remembers the zoom, and I don't want it to remember the zoom.
Apparently just for you.
I have the opposite issue. I zoom in. I zoom in a lot on the AUR when I click the RSS feed to see all the updated packages on the AUR. But I am old. I cannot see such small, tiny letters. So I zoom in to 175%. I close Vivaldi, reboot the computer, shut down the computer, come back the next day, open AUR, it's big.
I wish mine worked like that. Because
there's why do we suffer the opposite things?
I don't know, because the way mine works is I go to a website, I zoom in, and then I close this tab, go back to it, like a little while later, and it's back to the normal size. Now you can set a zoom level for the entire thing.
Closing the tab, I'm closing the entire browser with the page zoomed in, and I reopen the browser, it reopens the page zoomed in. But if I close the tab, I never tried that.
Yeah, well, I mean, of course, it remembers the zoom as long as the tab is still open. But if I close the tab and go back,
if you close the browser with the tab open, it's gonna remember it zoomed in. But if you close the tab,
yeah, that's just okay. So remembering zoom position when the tab is still open, that's just normal behavior. I'd expect that to happen. What I wanted to do,
yeah, I'm saying even if you close the browser.
Right, I know that's normal behavior, Steve. It's supposed to do that. It does it in every single browser. It'd be silly if you close the
browser without closing the tab.
Well, yeah, but I don't. This is a system-wide thing. It's many different websites. Is what I'm saying. When I go to something to read, my eyes are crap, and I want the zoom to be a regular thing on that particular website. But you can't. If I set my zoom level browser-wide to like 150% or whatever, it ruins so many other websites that I don't want zoomed in, like YouTube or YouTube Studio. You know what I mean? It just.
But one thing I need to point out. Did you notice one thing when you mention on Fostodon, when you mention an issue with Vivaldi while mentioning the Vivaldi handle, do you notice that without replying to you a few versions ahead, your issue gets addressed?
No, I haven't noticed that.
The tab thing, the tab stack that you complained about, like it took them maybe a month or two. But after 2 months, they had it fixed.
Well, I don't think it was because of Mastodon, though. I actually
somebody else mentioned it other than you. But
I did report that bug actually on the bug tracker.
What I love about the Vivaldi people is when I mention them, they reply to me. They don't leave me in the dust and he's just another guy talking about bullshit. No, they reply to me. They tell me we're working on it.
Okay, so yes, Twig, Vivaldi is proprietary. No, I don't care.
No, I don't care either. As long as it works for us.
I use proprietary software all the time when the software is good and it's better than the other thing. So if it provides features that I want, then I will use it.
I'll have one thing to say about that. Sublime Text, paid app. I paid for it. I use it. Sublime Merge, same thing. There's a lot of proprietary things that we have. Sometimes we have to use, like proprietary NVIDIA drivers. If you want to go all Libre with the all Libre mentality, go ahead, use Libre Linux or whatever it's called, Arch version, Libre version of Arch. Go use that if you want to keep complaining about, this is closed source. This is closed source. I want to fight this. Oh, go to hell. Okay, go to the Libre. Nobody's forcing you to come in, but good luck getting your system booting and functioning correctly. So stop that bullshit with its proprietary.
Do you have a good
Gets me mad. Sorry. It gets my blood boiling when people start doing that.
Well, okay. So my opinion on the whole, like, I have a open source preference. I prefer to use open source all the time, and you're the same way, right?
Yeah.
And I'd love to use Firefox, and I use Firefox for ages. It's a fine browser, but there are certain features in Vivaldi that I really like, and the biggest one is workspaces. It's fantastic. Now, I basically had the same functionality on Firefox, but it's not quite the same. So basically, I had the workspaces in Firefox, but without tab stacking. So with the workspaces in Vivaldi, I can have separate workspaces. So, like, I have, one for programming. I have one that's a main place where it's just kind of a collect all. I have a to-do one. I have one for video ideas. I have one for research and stuff like that. So, I have all these workspaces. But within those, I can also have individual tab groups within those, so I can kind of really super organize all of my tabs. Now, this is only a feature that is worthwhile for people who have a ton of tabs. If you're the type of person who only has like 2 or 3 tabs, workspaces may be something that you like, but for me personally, I use a ton of tabs. Now,
I prefer to use open source anything over proprietary, but when I find the things that I need in a proprietary version, like, let's say, a browser, for example, I don't close my mind and I say no. I refuse. I understand. We
not
need
a
to
masochist.
start using.
Just I use the tools for the job and get it done. And
Exactly.
if a tool comes along that does it better, I'll use that thing. Now,
Exactly.
there are certain exceptions to this. Like if Windows did something better than Linux, which I'm sure there's something out there that Windows does better than Linux. I don't really know what it is. I'm still not going to use Windows. So there are limits to my willingness to use proprietary software. So I'm not so into the open source thing that I can't see the benefits.
There's one thing I will admit that Firefox has over Vivaldi is the performance of Firefox. Hands down is way better than Vivaldi. Vivaldi, when you start having workspaces and a lot of tabs open, it slows down. It's no longer as fluid, as fast as when you first open the browser. But Firefox magically stays fluent, and you can drag the window no matter how many tabs you have. It's still fluid and everything.
Yeah, I haven't had any problems with it slowing down, and I have a ton of tabs open. So maybe that's something.
I'm not saying slows down to a lot, but you notice it's no longer as fluid as when you first opened it. Whereas Firefox stays as fluid as when you first opened it with 0 tab.
Maybe I'll have to pay
I noticed
attention
that,
to
at least
more.
on my system. I don't know. I have 32 gigs of RAM and 5600X.
All right, let's go ahead and
to upgrade to the 5800X3D one day.
I don't think I'll be upgrading my computer for quite some time. I just bought a brand new
Which
GPU.
CPU do you have?
I have the 3800X.
Oh, so you have the one above mine.
Yeah. I'll probably stay there for 3 or 4 more years at least, probably longer. The problem is I don't tax the CPU that I have, so
Same here. It's just a
mental thing.
A mental thing.
You want the newest?
I feel like if I get not newest. It's just a placebo thing. Maybe I'll be able to build Zero Linux faster.
Yeah. You could always try to get yourself like an M2 Mac or something. Those things compile crap like lickety split.
When I can afford a Mac, I can afford a better CPU and a motherboard and RAM.
Yeah, I know. Anyways, let's go ahead and jump into the news. I'm gonna go ahead and go first this week because I never go first. I think I get to go first, and I think we might as well just start off with the big one. So Ubuntu 23.10 will be not using deb packages inside of the Software Center anymore. Now,
wow.
I don't
making it proper, making it snaps above debs,
yeah,
but there will be much less debs.
They'll be using snaps as the default from here on
Yeah,
out
as
in their software center. Now, yes, there's been a lot of foot about this, but I also want to say this about this. This is
about
was
this.
I mean, this was so obvious. They were always going to do this. There was never they were never ever going to not do this, and eventually, I think that they really do want to get completely rid of debs completely. It wouldn't surprise me.
It's gonna be a Debian thing only.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it really wouldn't surprise you because they really are all in on snaps. So, um, let's see if we can see what they're saying. So it's a non-goal to try and present debs and snaps as two options for the same app, doing what is hard to get right and restrict design choices in other areas. I don't. Deb support will land later because resources are always tight. Finally, nothing here stops users from installing applications the old-fashioned way. So, in other words, opening the terminal and installing it that way.
Using apps.
Yeah. The problem is, of course, is that the terminal way is also sometimes going the snap direction as well. So if you want to install Chromium or Firefox or something like that, you can't install just the deb package because it doesn't exist. You know, you have to install Snap for you, even if you've uninstalled Snap. That's the reason why Linux Mint threw a fit, right? Because the Chromium package or whatever had Snapd as a hard dependency, which is, you know, shady. I think it's a little shady, but that's an old story. That's from like 5 years ago at this point. But the new software center is going to be Flutter based. So some community member created this, and then Ubuntu adopted it. And it will allow you to install deb versions, but it will default to the Snap package first.
And users can use it now. It's on the Edge channel. You have to install it as a Snap because wow. Yeah, but it's on the Edge channel. You can install it, but they warn you it's still buggy. But yeah, it's already available.
The thing about this is that it does basically mean that debs aren't going to be used inside of the software center at all, because you and I know about that little drop down thing there at the top. You know, we know about that, us nerds, but the vast majority of normies out there never look
just
up there.
Click install.
It's just installing it. They don't know the difference between one or the other, and that means that they're gonna be
they're gonna wonder why the app is taking so long to
why
open.
Why is my computer so slow? Now, I will say, in Snap's defense, and you guys never hear me say anything in Snap's defense, hardly ever. It is faster than it used to be. Still slow, but it's faster than it used to be.
Because of the loop devices. Of all the loop devices.
Well, the loop devices, and there's compressing and decompressing and all this stuff. They switch to a different. They switch to like ZSTD or I don't know. I don't
ZSTD. know. ZSTD is used by Arch, all packages, and by default. FOSS for when you're building an Arch ISO as well. But it tends to be on the. It's so compressed that sometimes feel applications taking a while to.
Yeah, I don't know if that's actually what they switched. I know they switched to a different compression algorithm or whatever it's called.
I think it's ZSTD.
But whatever they switched to supposedly was what was going to make it faster. And the thing is that they only ended up doing that because of the Firefox Snap, because the Firefox Snap was so slow, people actually complained about it, right? And because the browser is the primary thing that people use, you know, yeah, the browser is the primary thing that people use, and therefore they are going to notice when that is slow. If the calculator's slow, I mean, how often do you open the calculator, right? You know, so it's definitely not. Oops. But anyways, it's definitely not, you know, as slow as it used to be, but it's, you know, I don't know.
Snaps are getting better. I'm gonna put this out there. Snaps are getting better because I have a VM that I test that I test snaps on. I don't know why I'm a masochist, but I'm curious. I want to see when they get fixed. There are some snaps that used to take up to 5-8 seconds to load. Now they take 1.5 seconds. So they're working on it. They're taking all this feedback and everything, but I haven't seen someone so all in into something like Ubuntu with snaps.
Well, it's because it's theirs, right? They want they really they really believe. I was gonna say they really want that control, but what they really want is what they really believe is that snaps are the better way of doing it, not only for the end user but for the developers maintaining the package, because it's easier to package. You don't have to worry about dependency hell and all this stuff, right? And the thing is that when I criticize snaps, everyone thinks that I'm automatically a Flatpak fanboy, which I kind of am, but it doesn't mean that I can't see the flaws in Flatpak. Like, Flatpak has flaws, right? It takes up an inordinate amount of...
I was going to mention that in a bit.
But... Like, it takes up a lot of disk space. A lot of times the updates come in a little bit wonky. Also, it doesn't do a good job at package dependency management as Snaps does, because you still have to install... Like, if you install basically anything relating to GTK through a Flatpak, you're also going to get a whole bunch of GNOME dependency Flatpaks to go along with it. So even if you only have you've only installed one Flatpak, you'll probably have at least 4, because it also installs extra stuff.
The thing I was going to mention is related to that. Is I had a user on my Discord who was like, I install everything as a Flatpak, but for some reason I have 15 different NVIDIA things trying to update, and each one is over 300 megabytes in size. I'm worried about disk space. Like, each application uses a different version of the NVIDIA driver, so you're going to end up with sometimes for each application, there are 3 applications that use the same version of the driver. Instead of downloading the driver once, it downloads it 3 times. Yeah. This is bad package management on the Flatpak developer side.
Well, it's just the way they've chosen to do it, which is fine, but it looks weird. Also,
and for a user like me who has a very slow internet compared to the outside world, when I see 6 NVIDIA updates, I'm like, yeah, that's gonna take a week.
Well, that's even here where I have good internet. The download speeds are slow. It's not fast. So every time somebody...
And they still use the HTTP, not HTTPS.
Yeah,
just so you know.
There are tons of flaws with Flatpaks, just like there's tons of flaws with snaps. What would be great if those two teams could, I don't know,
together and have a Franken baby.
Yeah, work together and put these things together and make one thing that's actually good. Take the benefits of Snap, the benefits of Flatpak, and just combine them together.
Which brings me to a question I want to ask the users in chat. I don't have YouTube open. I avoid that because I don't want to slow my internet down. But I have a question to the users in chat and to you, Matt. Do you think Flatpak, the way it's going, it will reach a point where it will replace regular package distro-specific package managers, or that we will always have distro-specific package managers and Flatpak and snaps and whatever?
We're always going to have distro-specific package managers, I think. Now, I think that Flatpak will continue to get very popular, and I think as immutable...
It's never going to be the default. It's never going to be the only one out there.
It's going to be... Okay, so it's going to be the default on certain distros. So, like, if you're installing Silverblue or Kino White or Vanilla OS or, OpenSUSE's Aeon or whatever it's called now, if you install an immutable distro, then Flatpak is going to be the thing, right? But those distributions are going to be for certain types of users who aren't interested in exploring other more esoteric packages, right? So
I have to disagree on that front, because for the reason you gave, the idea you gave is correct, but the reason for that is kind of there's another reason for which we're gonna always have distro-specific package managers, is because there are some packages that cannot be packaged as Flatpaks.
Okay, so if you'd let me continue, I was actually going to say that. Like I said, if you're going for more esoteric packages, but also libraries and stuff like that for certain
and system
development packages, and obviously, I'm not a developer, but I'd be mightily surprised if systemd could be a Flatpak or a Snap. I'd be very surprised if you could do it.
Well, if you see what Ubuntu are doing, Ubuntu are able to package the printer driver as.
Well, yeah, they're doing cups, but I don't think that
they can. That means Flatpak can figure out a way to finagle something.
I'm just not sure the systemd itself could be a containerized package.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that that's technologically possible, like at all.
I wish.
And also, I
don't
know what even if it was possible, what would be the benefits of having systemd as a containerized package? You
have to manage permissions and shit for systemd itself.
Yeah. I just don't think it's possible. And even if it was, why would you do such a thing?
And another thing.
Although, if you think about it, let's just say systemd was possible to be containerized like that, it would also, at least theoretically, make it easier to switch out with a different init system if other init systems were also containerized. But again, I don't think it's possible. Like if you wanted to use runit or OpenRC, but that'd be like for like 6 people, you know.
Yeah. No, but another thing with Flatpaks is just a nightmare and a half, which I simplified on Zero Linux. But for the regular users using regular distros, it's not going to be very easy. It's making Flatpaks use the system theme. If you're using Adwaita Dark, it's gonna work because Adwaita Dark, everything uses Adwaita Dark. But if they are on KDE, for example, on Plasma or on XFCE, getting Flatpaks to use the system theme, you have to go through hoops. There's a guide. It's FOSS. It's a long one, so you have to jump into hoops to get Flatpaks just to use the system theme. Some apps have their own dark theme, whatever, but it's never the same theme as your system theme. If you're using something from Pling or AUR or whatever, you have to jump into hoops to get it to work with Flatpaks. That's not fun because they used to allow Flatpaks to have access to user share themes. They removed that capability completely. Now the only themes Flatpak can use are themes inside your .themes in your home directory, but you have to tell it to do that. You have to set the system overrides for Flatpaks. Not a fun thing.
They definitely need to fix that, but
they need to unify that and fix that thing.
Yeah, so there's many
Flatpaks are good.
There's many different. So that's the reason why we always talk about snaps versus Flatpaks, and somebody in the chat said, if that's the only way to do it, I'm going to buy a MacBook. Well, first of all, I mean, if you don't think Mac's going to go towards containerized stuff, also it's probably already doing it.
No, Mac, that's what they do. It's containers.
Right. So
all the Mac apps are containers.
Well, I mean, they're bringing in iOS, and they have iOS and iPad apps on Mac, and all of those are containerized. So it's definitely going to happen. That stuff is going to happen. But to answer your question, Steve, no, it's definitely not going to remove the need for distro-specific package managers, because even beyond the things that you mentioned, there are always going to be distro-specific packages that you might need to be able to install. If
they go Flatpak, I wouldn't need to host any packages on my repo anymore.
Things related to Pacman on Arch, things related to Zipper and virtualization and stuff like that. Downloading all the dependencies and stuff to go with KVM and QEMU. All that stuff is going to always be in a regular distro repository. I think it's going because
you mentioned the most painful one of the most painful packages to install, the QEMU full.
Yeah,
complete.
It's actually easier on Arch. On OpenSUSE, it is not easy. You have to use the terminal version of Yast in order to get there, and that is. Like the regular version of Yast, the GUI version is not bad. It has a whole bunch of features. It's antiquated and all that stuff. But the terminal version of Yast is not good. But when you install the KVM and QEMU stuff from yes to in the terminal, it only installs about half the stuff. It doesn't install libvirt daemon, so the service isn't actually available for you to even start. You have to go install that yourself, and then there's a whole bunch of other stuff you actually have to do in order to get your virtualization stuff up and running. You have to add yourself to the group, which usually, that is it's just one extra step on Arch, but
the meta package that I created for Zero Linux after, I don't know, 3 days of testing, I created a meta package that installs the full thing, everything, like 600 megabytes plus.
Yeah, there's a lot of packages.
And adds the user to the correct group, libvirt group, and starts the libvirt daemon service, whatever, and all you have to do is reboot the computer and start the network. All you have to do.
That's what I spent my morning doing.
Was to be able to do that. If it was only Flatpaks, we can't do all that stuff.
Yeah. All right. Anyways, Steve, your first link.
My first link is a very simple link. It's KDE Plasma. More Wayland fixes. KDE Plasma Wayland fixes severe screen distortion for some multi-GPU systems. And when I read the title, I was like, who still uses SLI? Multi-GPU system as in integrated GPU and dedicated GPU.
That's yeah. I thought about that too. I was like, people still use bridges and stuff for their GPUs? Like that's still a thing?
They're talking for a hybrid laptops.
That makes way more sense.
And they updated the Breeze cursor theme. I didn't think that cursor themes needed updating. That's not important. Why is that important?
All right.
Keyboard shortcut to trigger. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Poll in the chat and in the comments if you're watching afterwards. How many people have actually changed their cursor theme from whatever the default is?
Oh, okay.
I don't think I've changed my cursor theme in probably 30 years.
Same here. I use the Breeze theme. I use the Breeze theme on KDE. That's it.
Whatever the default is, that's what I use.
Exactly. I don't see the need to change.
That's actually a lie. Okay, because there was a distribution that I tested. I don't remember what it is. It was like maybe 4M Linux or something like that. It's one of those really rare distros that I made a video on, and that distro comes with like a bright red cursor out of the box, and I had to change that. Yeah. So I think
Peppermint OS. Wasn't it Peppermint OS?
I don't know. It was one. No, I think it was smaller than Peppermint OS. It was one of those. It doesn't matter. But it came with a bright red cursor. I had to turn that off. And actually,
yeah, I would have done the same thing.
It was just really bad. So
whatever the default is, I stick with. I don't need to change my cursor theme because I saw some people who are using woo cursors, with the little thing next to the cursor whenever it's processing something. Like, huh?
That stuff is too young for me. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what any of that means. Get off my lawn.
Yeah. I'm like,
it's like I don't know.
People. No. Anyway, I used to do that on Windows. To be honest, on Windows because the default cursor on Windows sucks like crap. I used to use a cursor that was like a pen, the gear at the end of it. I love that cursor. I used it for many years, but it was a big cursor, so you could see it like from like 20 feet away.
Right. Yeah, I have to do that for my mom. I have to change the Windows cursor so that it's like super big because she was always losing it.
Yeah, and I like that feature in Mac when you shake the mouse very fast, it grows to show you where the mouse is.
Oh, that's
not
cool.
a bad feature. Anyway,
hey, we just praised Mac. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the contact information. If you want to get in contact with us, you can do so in any number of ways. The best way to do so is head on over to the website, which is linuxcast.org. There you'll find previous episodes all the way back to season 1, along with all the blog posts that I post, which is a few. Every now and then. I try to do every week, but I don't succeed every week. I have another one that's in process of being written. Don't ask where that process is. The document is open. I guess it's in process. But anyways, that's where you can find all of that stuff. You can follow Steve on YouTube at youtube.com/zerolinux. Zero Linux, zero with an X, not a Z. You can you can subscribe to the Linux Cast at youtube.com/LinuxCast. You can support me on Patreon at patreon.com/LinuxCast. We have Discord servers and Mastodon, and there's a new Matrix server. All those links and stuff will be on the website, thelinuxcast.org/contact. There you'll find other links for Steve as well, including his Discord server and his website and links to Zero Linux and all that stuff, all on my website, thelinuxcast.org/contact. And I think that's it. It feels like a really short contact information because we're missing 2 people, but it's fine. And it was also really kind of hard to do because I was like, hey, where's Tyler and Josh? Anyways,
there's a Gentoo, and I borked Linux, guys.
Yeah. Well, I took care of the borking of Linux this time. And no, I didn't even consider installing Gentoo. I did install Gentoo in DistroBox yesterday, though. That was really easy.
I watched your DistroBox video. Now I don't know. Remember last week when I told you I turned everything into a bash script?
Yeah.
First thing when I first started watching your video at like minute 2 or 3 minutes, because you were praising it for a while.
Mm-hmm. I did that
for 5 minutes. So I was like, what if I wrote a bash script for Zero Linux that installs and takes care of the basics of DistroBox, so users can launch the DistroBox terminal, select which one they want, and it will run the command for the user instead of the user having to go to the website, copy paste the link, and whatever.
Well, if you end up,
I was thinking bash script wise.
If you
my brain was.
If you end up doing that, check out the command distrobox assemble. It basically allows you to create a config file of different images that you want, and then when you run that, it will install those images. So you could create a config file ahead of time with all the images you wanted to create in your bash script, and it would just, with one command, run all of them, install all of them, and it'd be done.
No, but my idea is along the lines. It's a button in my tool. They click it for DistroBox. It will say hello, name of the user. Which distro do you want to install via DistroBox?
That's cool.
Select Gentoo. They select Fedora. They select whatever, and whichever one they select, it will do all the backend stuff for them.
That'd be cool. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the news. I'll do my second one, which is we're heading back to Ubuntu land because Canonical just can't stop pissing people off. This was the week that I think pretty sure that the Canonical decided they're just going to do a news dump of all of their stuff that they just knew were going to make.
You're not the only one. You're not the only one. I just watched the Linux Experiments weekly news video. It was all about Ubuntu.
Yeah, well, Ubuntu, like I said, they just dropped all their stuff. So about 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago or so, they created an option in their installer that allowed users to select a minimal install, and basically all it would install was the stuff you needed, including like a browser and stuff like that. It wouldn't install any of the other GNOME packages. It wouldn't install anything extra. And it was a very popular install option because it basically allowed people to use the desktop version of Ubuntu, but without all the cruft that you get if you installed the 2 or 3 gigabyte ISO, right? Well, that option is going away. Now, if you just read Joey's article to like the halfway point, if you're not one of those people who don't read all the way to the end, you'd probably pretty like, why are they doing this? This doesn't make any sense. But apparently their plan is to go full on Arco Linux. I doubt that they go that far, but apparently they're creating a more modular installer, which will basically allow users to select what they want installed along the way. Now,
wait, did you just say go for Arco Linux?
Full Arco Linux, so, like when you install Arco,
I
get all that
I
stuff.
got what you meant, but I was like, did I hear Arco Linux? Hey, Eric, he mentioned you. He mentioned your thing.
Well, I could have mentioned Zero Linux, but we do that. We do that a lot.
No.
I don't care about Zero Linux. Who does that? What a schmuck. And anyways, I doubt that they go that far. Like, you're not going to be able to select something other than GNOME, but you'd be able.
No.
I'm interested to see. I don't. The question I have for this is, do you think, Steve, that Ubuntu users, and this is going to sound very condescending to Ubuntu users, do you think that Ubuntu users really want that level of granularity where they get to choose the packages that they want to install, or would they much be happier with just a one or the other?
Surprisingly enough, there's a lot of Ubuntu users who I see them a lot on various Discord servers. I see it very often where they say we wish we had the granularity that some Arch distros offered. Yes, because what Ubuntu used to do, I don't know if they still do it. I haven't installed Ubuntu in like 10 years. But what they used to do is when you select install whatever the online checkbox is during their installer, what was it called? The Ubiquity installer. It's they check the box. It will install stuff, download stuff, and install them from online. You ended up with a lot of fluff, but you had zero control over what it was downloading and what it was installing at all. It installs everything, and then it's up to the user to start removing whatever they didn't need, the fluff they didn't need. There's a lot of complaints about. There was a lot of complaints about that. Now, when they decided to give users more granularity, I saw people say, I didn't. They didn't say anything. You know, the emoticons, the reactions you can do on Discord to announcement.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, for the news article for that one on my server, at least it received it. I have 666 numbers on my server. I hate that number. Uh, but out of 666, there was 300 thumbs up on that article alone.
Yeah.
So that goes to show you that people are looking for more freedom on Ubuntu.
That surprises me a little bit, but not too much. What I'm actually more interested in, so you said you haven't installed Ubuntu in a while. Basically, if they still do this, I'm pretty sure they still do, is when you choose the minimal install, they actually install everything, and then they uninstall it right during the same process. So you have to actually download everything, and then they go through the process of actually uninstalling all the things that they install. So by being more granular about it, I think that they'll do it. What I'm very interested to find out is when this happens, is
how far are they going to go with it?
Yeah, what options are they actually going to give? Because think about it. Are they going to give you options between like Firefox and Chromium? Are those going to be the options that you're going to have? They're not going to give you
environments or window managers.
Is this probably 3 or 4 months back, we were talking about some kind of news item regarding Ubuntu, and I talked about how it'd be interesting to see an Ubuntu ISO that allowed you to basically install any of the flavors, right during install, right?
Oh my God!
And we talked about how horrible that experience would be for people who don't have good internet, because you'd have to download everything, because there's no way you can have a ISO that big. But the counter argument to that was that Arco does it. But the problem with
in a way, not directly.
Right, but it also allows you. The other problem, of course, is that you give people. The more complicated you make your installer, and Ubuntu is meant for new users, right? It's meant for newer Linux users. So I wonder if, as this matures and more options are added, would they continue to emulate Arco Linux and have two different installers, like how Arco has the beginners installers and they have
beginner
like an advanced one.
Yeah.
I don't think that they'd start out with that, but it'd be interesting to see. I'm just very curious to see what options they actually give you.
I am curious as well, because here's the thing. There's now Zero Linux. We have a team. We discuss things now. We no longer decide anything before discussing it. There's an idea on the table which says, what if? How Eric calls it, it's a what if. Sorry, Eric, I'm taking your thing. The what if that we had, and that what if it was, what if we had a minimal ISO for Zero Linux? And that's before I read the article. What if we had a minimal ISO that allowed users to pick and choose whatever they wanted? What if they want the KDE version of Zero Linux, the XFCE, the GNOME, and with what packages do they want to include? They want to include Firefox or Vivaldi or Fireworks. Sorry about that. Do they want Vivaldi or Firefox, or do they want Chromium, etc., etc.? So we're working on this. It's an idea on the table. We're not working on it yet, but it's an idea on the table. It's a suggestion. So,
there's at least one person in the chat probably saying what you know what you guys are explaining. You're explaining NixOS. Because the NixOS allows you to put all of your things
you have
you want
to create the configuration file and all that jazz. For what we were thinking is on a simpler.
I'm sure. I'm just saying that's the whole concept behind NixOS is that you choose all the packages you want and then it installs from the configuration file.
No, the idea also came from we need to stop using Calamares. Calamares and plus if we had a minimal ISO, because if we had an ISO with a live environment with a desktop and everything. If you install, let's say we had one with KDE and the user selected GNOME, we'll end up with GNOME and KDE mixed together. I'm sure there are complicated other ways to end up with one desktop environment, but it's very too complicated. That way, it will allow the user to select whatever version. They will only end up with version they selected without any fluff, without any duplicated packages and like that. And we seriously need to start moving. And everybody, all the distros that are using Calamares, they need to stop using Calamares because Calamares is now fragmented. It's as fragmented as there are distros because each distro makes Calamares. Calamares the app. I'm not talking about the config. The config is a different thing. The config is what customizes Calamares to each distro's needs. The Calamares application itself is becoming fragmented because this distro is using these modules, that distro is using these modules, and then the Calamares app, the code itself, is being modified from the ground up differently by each distro. No longer a single app. It's a million versions of the Calamares app with a million different configs. No longer unified as a single app that uses plugins customized by each and every distro to suit their needs. The app itself being modified as well as its add-on plugin. So we need to move away. Everybody needs to move away from Calamares. It's too fragmented. Nobody is willing to help no one. The answer you're going to get on the Calamares community is, I don't want to write the program for you. It's not my job.
Yeah.
So, but we need to start working on simpler ways. Not very simpler is weird because it's TTY. TTY is not very simple, but different ways to create distros, to install distros. Not Calamares. Calamares is not the answer anymore.
Yeah.
It was for a long time, but not anymore.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to the last one for the day, Solus Linux. So, Steve, take us away.
This is an article that would have been talked about by Josh.
Yeah.
Because Josh did a lot for Solus, and he got banned by Solus. But hey, come on.
Who hasn't he been banned by?
Well, anyway, Solus just got Solus 4.4 finally got released, but it's not a major release. It's just they enabled ZRAM. They added basic support for Wayland. It's on the way. So what they're saying is Wayland support will be fully integrated in Solus, but maybe not. They will completely switch to Wayland in version 11.
Oh my god.
Version 11 is how many years away?
No. All right, so I started using Linux full-time in 2017. I talked about this in a blog post recently. Maybe it was even a video. I don't remember. My first distro when I came back to Linux in 2017 was Ubuntu Budgie. At that point, they were on version 10 point something, and they were already talking then about version 11. That has been 6 years ago, and they're still talking about version 11. Okay.
But don't forget the hiatus and the issues they suffered for 2
GIMP,
years.
GIMP 3.0 will come before Solus 11, guaranteed. I mean, I would bet $10,000 in crypto that happens. I'm sure that the Solus guys are great, and I'm sure they had a good reason for banning Josh. I don't know what that reason actually was, but I will say that I don't trust them to do anything significant. Like, it just feels like they're in a holding pattern. They keep coming up with different plans. I think Ike's back with the project now, and the guy who does Budgie is back with the project now. So they're doing a whole transition from their independent thing that they're doing now, moving it over to Serpent OS, which is Ike's project, and they have this whole thing.
It's gonna take a long time.
I don't know.
Like you said, GIMP will arrive before.
I don't think it's gonna happen.
Do you think the project is clinging? It's clinging for dear life.
Well, I think I'm surprised. First of all, I'm surprised that there was another version, because like 6 months ago or whatever, they said that was basically there was never going to be another one. They didn't even own the servers or whatever that was being used to distribute their ISOs or whatever, and the person who did own them walked away from the project, so they didn't have access to any of that stuff, so they had to do a whole bunch of switching. It's amazing how many times that happens. That's actually happening to Qtile right now. Hey, Nate, thanks for the super chat. I appreciate that. It's happening to Qtile. Somebody owned their domain, and that person walked away and went completely AWOL. So they've been struggling with their documentation server for weeks and weeks now. That hasn't come back. So it's amazing how often that happens. But the whole Budgie thing, the thing about Budgie, and we're not even really talking about the version. It's just that they've come up with so many different plans. Budgie was a part of the project, and it wasn't part of the project, but now the guy who does Budgie is back with the project, and they have these really grand plans for version 11, but version 11 keeps moving further and further away the more plans that they're making, because not only are they and by the way, when we say version 11, what we mean is version 11 of Budgie, not version 11 of Solus. Solus is at 4.4. But the whole Budgie thing and Solus are very interconnected, and they really always have been, even though they're now split projects. It's just a mess for me, and
it is a mess, because I'll have everyone know that I did install Solus 4.4. Some of their GTK apps are still using GNOME 3.38 apps. Some odd and unexplained reason. I opened an app randomly. I was like, about. It told me 3.38. I was like, what? What in the name of?
Well,
why are they using such old?
The Budgie guys have a very acrimonious, I think that's the right word, of relationship with GTK and GNOME, and that's the reason why they're moving to the EFL libraries, or the EFL libraries, right? The Enlightenment libraries.
It's too many mixed applications. You got 3.38, 4.0, 4.3, 4.2.1. It's it's a Franken distro at this point. Use one library. Why are you using 3-4 different libraries? Because they can.
Yeah, the thing is, though, the plans that they have right now are very much subject to change, and when I use a distribution, I want to be able to trust the developers, and it doesn't have to mean like they have to be like a huge, corporation for me to trust them. That's usually goes the other way. I don't trust them if they're a major corporation all the time.
And you cannot trust Zero Linux.
Right? It's just I want to have
creator of Zero Linux is telling Matt not to trust Zero Linux.
Yeah, that creator of Zero Linux, total douchebag. Hey, Ross B, thanks for the super chat. I'm glad you like snaps. Use Flatpaks instead.
Nice one. But seriously, I don't I don't even trust my own distro, even though I'm working on it, because I don't have the knowledge to, if one day I reach a catastrophic thing, I won't know how to fix it. But
So let's talk about this for a second. Because you run a small distribution. Over the years,
small is the right word.
you've seen this as a Linux user. The smaller distributions have a much more likely chance of eventually not being updated any longer. Like the developer
Yes.
loses interest. They get a job where they can no longer
Oh,
spend
yeah.
time. Like they go work for Apple
Many
or
variables.
something.
Many variables. Yeah, many variables.
So that just happens. What do you think are the responsibilities of the small distro maintainer to their users if that kind of thing happens? Like, do they have a responsibility to kind of try to pass the project along, or to keep it in like maintenance mode, or what do you think on that?
No. Don't. If you want to go maintenance mode, better just yank the plug. Uh, because everything is rolling, especially since uh, some distributions are rolling releases like Arch. Uh, yeah, better yank the plug. But the responsibility is move it along, it to somebody who can continue maintaining it, or shut the plug, pull the plug. You have two choices: you either move it or announce that it's dead and tell recommend users move away from it and things like that. Only those two. Anything in between is unnecessary. Like in my case, I'll be frank with everyone. Uh, I'm gonna make a standalone video about that at some point. But to be frank with you guys, Zero Linux is not gonna be uh, by me forever. At some point, it's gonna exchange hands. If it can't exchange hands, I prefer to shut it down. But I'm working very hard on not shutting it down yet. I prefer to continue working on it because I don't have no life. Only thing that keeps me going every morning is Zero Linux. When I find a job and forbid get married, uh, I said God forbid. Uh, if I get married or find a job or continue my life, resume my real life, Zero Linux is going to be on the back burner. It's going to be just another thing that I enjoy from time to time working on. It's no longer going to be on the forefront. So uh, I will be at that point. I will be looking for someone to either continue the project, change the project, to do whatever they want with the project, but keep the name Zero Linux alive. Uh, if not, I'm gonna shut it down. I'm gonna push a message on the World Wide Web telling people move away from Zero Linux. Zero Linux is no more. None. Because I cannot do my job and work on Zero Linux in a serious fashion all the time. Prefer concentrating on my real life and my job because I ain't no. If you didn't notice, I ain't young no more.
You are an
Got
old
white
person.
hair in my goatee. Yeah. The responsibility of the distro maintainer is to continue maintaining the distro for as long as they can, and when they feel that they can no longer do it, is hand it off to someone else. Priority is handing it off to someone else if they want to keep the name alive. Otherwise, just announce and pull the plug. Don't leave it alive in maintenance mode because, oh my lord, I paused Zero Linux for a short while. I'm gonna mention something, and I don't mean it in a bad way, but Hiroshima all over again.
Too soon.
Avoid that. Avoid that. Avoid that with as much as you can. Don't put it in maintenance mode. Users are gonna scream and come at you with pitchforks. Gonna go back to the 1700s.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm glad we had that little conversation. Let's go ahead and move on to the thingies of the week. So this is the last section of the show where we do this every single week. We could have called it any number of things: apps of the week, picks of the week.
We called it the thingy dingy in the between the legs.
See, he always takes it to the. It wasn't meant to be dirty. It was meant to be dirty.
You didn't mean for it to be dirty? Okay.
No. Anyways, so we select things that we're interested in and then we share them with the others. So today, Steve, what is your thingy of the week?
If that's the desktop is an application. I went to FlatHub, was like, I need to add more Flatpaks to my tool because it's very bare bones right now. It only has 1,000 packages in there. I need more like 2,500. I went on FlatHub and I was scrolling for like 20, 30 minutes, and I saw something called Save Desktop. I was like, what the fuck is that? Well, let me tell you, it saved my life. It saves your desktop settings. It saves your installed Flatpaks. Not all of them. For some reason, it doesn't detect everything. I don't know why. For example, OBS, it only detects OBS, but not the plugins. So the plugins were installed as Flatpaks. Hey, reported it to the developer. I'm still waiting on a fix. But it allows you to save your theming, icon themes, your desktop theme, your whatever, with the exception of Kvantum. It doesn't save the Kvantum well for people on KDE. It's more targeted towards GTK, basically GNOME, than KDE. It works very well on XFCE since XFCE is GTK. For window managers, not many are listed in the supported ones. If any.
Actually, don't see any. Nope.
No window managers, because window managers are way too complex. Too many configuration files.
Literally, okay, no, hold on a second. Hold on there.
All over the place. Configuration file all over the place. Fight me.
No, literally one configuration file. That's all you have. That's all there is. One configuration file. XFCE has like 12 different configuration files all over the place. Way more complex than a window manager.
Configuration files that users have to configure by writing words.
One. Config.
Not all of them are one. Not all of them are one.
Okay, I'm trying to think of OpenBox possibly might have two because you'd have the menu and the config file for the so that would have two. That's BSPWM would have two, but i3 has one, Xmonad has one, Qtile has one, DWM.
For the theming, you can control theming with one configuration file.
Well, I mean, you can't control I mean, if you're talking about like for GTK and stuff like that, it controls GTK and Qt in the same way that GNOME and XFCE do.
Okay.
G settings. Right?
I don't know. To be on the serious note, I don't know why they don't support WMs, but they don't.
Probably because here to be more on your side, you don't really need this for a window manager. Most window manager users back up their systems to their configuration files to Git and just pull it right back down to Git. So
yeah, but this is more targeted towards desktop environments or GTK based desktop environments. Then although they list Plasma all the way at the bottom,
I saw that.
Yeah, all the way at the bottom. They're like GTK. Oh, cute. I tried it on Plasma. It didn't save everything, unfortunately. But when I tried it on GNOME, dude, it's like you reinstall your system, install this app, restore of course, it backs up a zip file, all the settings and the dconf and everything. You click one button, you're loading the file. You click one button, you're back where you left off before they're restoring your system.
Extensions and everything?
Extensions, well, extension configurations, no. Extensions as well. Sorry, extensions as well, because they're saved in, if you download them via the extensions.gnome.org, they're in .local / GNOME shell.
If you use the extension manager, it doesn't.
What does the extension manager?
The GNOME Extension Manager is an app you get from Flatpak that allows you to install stuff without having to install a browser plugin.
Oh yeah. What I meant was if you install them as a user, not as packages from the AUR or
that makes sense.
Or whatever, go into your home directory .local share GNOME shell extensions. So as long as they are in there, it backs them up because it has access your home directory. So it backs up extension settings, since the extension settings are in a dconf file. Uh, Backs up your wallpaper, any additional wallpapers you added, your everything, all the settings. It's like you never left. Amazing. It's a cool little app. It's very small. It's like it's a megabyte or something.
That's
So
that sounds like a really cool thing, and I might use it for XFC, but it still would not get me to use GNOME. So
no, but worked for XFCE wonderfully, but for KDE, for some reason, although the settings for LatteDoc are inside .config, a folder called Latte, wasn't backing up LatteDoc settings. It was like, I'm bypassing that. I don't know what Latte is. So it only sees KDE panel settings. It only sees KDE related stuff. Anything, if you're using a third-party widget or a third-party dock or a third-party something on KDE, doesn't back up the settings. It's hard-coded in there what it backs up. It reminds me of config saver that existed but then died on Plasma. It works for any GTK-based desktop environment. That's very good, and that makes users' lives so much easier. And you can upload. I uploaded my my backup to my host, to my server. Like that, I have a offline backup because I format that GNOME hard drive a lot because I need to test for Linux on bare metal as many times as possible to make sure it works. But yeah, it's a neat little utility. I recommend it to anyone who's on GNOME, XFCE. But if you're on KDE, don't use it. Don't bother.
Well, maybe they'll get it to work better in the future. All right, so mine.
Hopefully.
Yeah, mine. I'm not going to spend too much time on mine because I just made a whole video about it yesterday. But I just want to reiterate: if you haven't tried DistroBox, download it and try it out. It is the coolest thing ever. So, like I said in the pre-show, I installed Gentoo yesterday in DistroBox. It took 3 minutes.
Really?
Yeah, it took 3 minutes to install
installation
Gentoo.
of.
Now,
is it just the installation of Gentoo, or installing it, configuring it, and?
Well, it just installs Gentoo, and then you can install all your packages that you want to install. So, like, I installed NeoFetch and I took a screenshot of NeoFetch. So you can install whatever you want.
I have a question for you. Before you continue. I have a question for you. When you want to run a window manager or a desktop, can you install desktop full desktop environments as containers? GUI desktop environments.
So
with the menus and everything.
You can, but it's not as easy as using a window manager because a lot of the desktop environments rely on certain system D things being in place in the right places, and DistroBox does not have control over system D. It does not have its own init system. It uses the host's init system, so it has access to services, but it doesn't have access to the entire system D stack. So
basically, you can install. Example, if I want to install Debian with KDE, I am on KDE already. It uses my KDE settings, the Debian KDE distro box that I installed.
It would use any KDE settings that are in your home directory because it shares a home directory. So if it's the settings are in the root directory anywhere, it would use the ones from the container.
The bigger question is, since on Debian KDE is older than the KDE on your host system, for example, wouldn't that cause version discrepancy issues?
It's possible that some of the configuration files and stuff like that would not work. So in that case, you can create a distro box with its own home directory, and then when you install packages, it uses its own stuff. So you have your own home directory.
You can give the distro box that you install its own home directory inside your home directory.
Yeah, if you just use when you do DistroBox create, you just do -- home, and it creates its own home directory for that particular container.
A home directory inside a home directory.
I'm not sure actually where it stores it, so don't quote me that it's in the home directory, but it does create it. The other issue with desktop environments is that it has some debus issues. So I installed XFCE, and it installed fine and everything, but I could not get it to launch because of some debus issues. Now I didn't have a chance to troubleshoot that before I messed up my Debian install, so I still have to play around with that. But in theory, yes, it is possible to do. It's just not as easy as it is to window. With window managers, they don't have any expectations over hardly anything because they're just window managers, right? So they're not expecting to have.
You can install Hyperland, for example.
Yeah, you can install you can install Hyperland as long as your display manager will boot into a Wayland session, which is most of them these days. Yeah, because you're still going to be using that stupid SDDM. That's why I switched to Light DM. It just works better.
Light DM is good.
I thought about
Light DM doesn't give a hoot what you're trying to do. It just says, okay, log in.
Yep. Anyways, yeah, DistroBox, it's amazing. I've only sort of kind of really scratched the surface of the things that you can do with it, but I won't continue to sing his praises every week. But
no,
definitely,
listen.
You haven't, definitely try it.
Can you do me a favor?
Sure.
Do all of us a favor. Do the Josh thing for DistroBox.
What do you mean the Josh thing? You mean like break it?
Oh, long ass how-to video.
Oh yeah, I don't. A lot of the features.
Go over all the options, all the features, all the things.
Okay, so
make it a 10-hour video.
So you can use an option with DistroBox Enter to create its own desktop file. So if you have a application on a container, you can use an option for DistroBox Enter to create a desktop file on your host system so that you can run that particular application.
There's a command to create the desktop file. You don't have to create it manually.
Yeah, it will do it for you. And so if you say install Firefox on the container, you'd have a desktop file and it would just work. It's really freaking awesome. And if you use DistroBox Assemble, you can have that configuration file available to you whenever you go to a different system, and it will just install all the images that you always have. It's really, really cool. Anyways, definitely give that a check out. I'll stop.
I need to check it out. Maybe I'll create a bash script like I said earlier.
Yeah. The documentation is also really good, by the way. It's better than watching my video about it. The documentation is really good.
Documentation.
Yep.
Documentation. Who's going to read? Reading is for pussies.
Okay. And on that note, don't read into that too much.
I need to mention one thing before we end. I need to mention one thing. People on Arch, please, if you get the grub issue, don't report it to any distro maintainer. Report it up on Grub. You go to Grub's website. They have a bug reporting section where you can report bugs. Report it there. We need people to report it as to DDoS the Grub bug tracker, so they can fix it quickly because it's starting to get annoying. And there's another issue with the set font thing that I don't know. With every update of Arch, new things break. That's the nature of Arch. I know. I understand it. I live with it. But for Grub, please, people, make some noise. Shake the ground underneath the Grub developers' feet, because it's starting to get annoying. 2 updates in a row that are broken. Come on, Grub devs, what are you doing? And Arch maintainers for the Grub package, test the package before you put it. You ship it to your users.
What they need to do is
so over that.
What they need to do is hire the guy who does the GNOME updates for Arch to do the Grub ones too, because he never updates GNOME on time. If he did the same thing with Grub, it'd be fantastic. He just holds it back for 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, and this is in this case, yeah, that's exactly what needs to happen. We need to get that GNOME guy and take care of the Grub package, because Arch. Please test Grub before you're shipping. It's an essential part of every OS. We're sick of having those kind of issues, and us distro maintainers having to tell our users over and over and over again, downgrade Grub, hold it back. Downgrade Grub, hold it back.
All right.
I'm not gonna hold the grub back because if I do it myself, they're gonna yell at me. Why are you doing the Manjaro thing?
Anyways, pro tip: don't use Arch Linux. Just use Debian.
Or use Arch Linux in a container in DistroBox.
Yeah, do that. Anyways, that's it for this episode. We record this live every Saturday around 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, and we are on one hell of a streak. I think we've done 5 episodes in a row. Even when we're missing like half of our crew, we're still here entertaining you guys. It's well, at least I hope we're
entertainment. It's entertainment. No, it's edutainment.
Right,
educating and entertaining.
I don't know about all that. Don't go too far. You don't want to sell it too hard, Steve. Anyways, youtube.com/LinuxCast is where you can find that live. You can hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification icon so you don't miss us when we do go live. If you're watching this afterwards or even right now, go find that like button, hit it for me. It really does help the channel. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks to everybody who does support me on Patreon at patreon.com/LinuxCast. You guys are all absolutely amazing. Without you, the channel just would not be anywhere near where it is right now. So thank you so very, very much for your support. I truly do appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thanks everybody for watching. I'll see you next time.